season 2 of Love Elevated TV. I'm Renitris, and today we're diving into something that has so many of us stuck, the myth of Mr. Right. We were told to wait for the perfect man who checks all the boxes, but has that idea have you single longer than necessary? Today I'm going to share why this idea of waiting for the perfect man may have you single longer than necessary. So pour yourself a glass of your favorite beverage because this idea may just change your whole perspective. So let's talk about this idea of Mr. Right, this perfect, flawless man that is predestined just for you. The idea that he's out there just waiting to sweep you off your feet sounds dreamy, right? But what if it's just a fairy tale? Here's the truth. This idea has kept you stuck waiting for something that just does not exist. Mr. Right suggests that there's a man that checks off every box that will never challenge you, that will never help you to grow, that will never get on your nerves. This myth has you holding out for a fairy tale when the truth is that real love is about finding someone who will walk beside you, flaws and all. Yes, someone who matches your values, but they won't be perfect. Because guess what? You're not perfect either. I'm not perfect. So instead of waiting for Mr. Right, let's focus on being Miss Ready. Ready for the kinds of love that requires patience, maturity, forgiveness, growth. There is so much beauty in imperfection, and the perfect partner for you will challenge you to grow beyond your wildest dreams. But only if you're ready to let go of this myth of Mr. Right and get grounded in reality. So let's talk about some of the origins of this idea about this perfect partner. And I think that the origins can be traced back to Greek mythology. Now, I'm no Greek mythology expert. I do know a little bit. But I know that the idea of soulmates comes from Greek mythology. And in Greek mythology, we know that humans used to have two faces. They had four arms and they had four legs. And the Greek god Zeus was a little bit intimidated by the potential power of these beings walking around with two faces, four arms, and four legs. And so, because he was intimidated by the potential power that these beings had, he split them in half. And so, the idea of soulmate came about because what was once one being with two faces, four arms, and four legs was now two halves of a whole, which meant that they were destined to go out life seeking their other half. And that's where the whole idea of soulmates came from. Then we have how media has portrayed this idea of the perfect match. We're heading into the holidays now soon. We will be bombarded with all of the Christmas movies from Hallmark, and those rom-coms go a little something like this. Days and decides that she's going to go to a coffee house to work for the day. Well, she goes in, she gets her coffee. Maybe she forgets something in the car. And so she rushes out with her coffee in hand and bumps right into Mr. Tall, Dark, and Handsome. She drops her bags. We hear the music change, which means that there is something there. He helps her with the things and she goes on about her day. And then the rest of the movie is about all this series of unfortunate accidents until they find themselves in love, in sync. Well, maybe I have oversimplified it just a little bit. But the idea is that, again, there is this perfect person that we are destined to be with. We could even trace back some of the origins of this perfect person, especially as it relates to Christian dating, and to the story of Adam and Eve. And I want to challenge you to understand that the Bible is a book of similes and metaphors. And so we all know what similes and metaphors are. It's not meant to be taken literally. So when they say that Eve was fashioned from God taking a rib out of Adam, doesn't necessarily mean that he literally took a rib from him and made Eve. It was a metaphor for something deeper. We won't get into that now. But it was a metaphor for something deeper. And in the Christian community, we have taken that story and we have made that into this myth that there is a person out here missing a rib and we have that rib in our body. And then when we meet them, they're just going to be this perfect match. But even if that story was literal, there is no other account in the Bible that talks about this perfect person, like a woman being made especially for the man. So we can use that to understand that it's just not the way that it was meant to be. We can even go a little bit further and talk about the fairy tale. Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty, my personal favorite is Beauty and the Beast. When we have this woman this damsel in distress who is just waiting for the perfect guy to come riding up on his white horse and save her. In Beauty and the Beast, there isn't a white horse riding in to save her, but there is still that element of the person needing saving, even though Belle is the one who teaches Beast the softer side, teaches him the real meaning of love. But again, those are all fairy tales, and it just doesn't happen that way in real life. Real love is going to challenge you. Real love is going to expose the parts of you that need to be in the light. The parts of you that you don't enough attention. The parts of you that you hide from other people. Think back to past relationships that challenged you on some level. Maybe that relationship challenged you to communicate better, or maybe that relationship challenged you to resolve conflict better. It was uncomfortable, right? And maybe if you're anything like me, maybe you ran away from that relationship because we have been taught that the perfect relationship is just going to fit. There is not going to be any conflict. They're not going to get on your nerves. But if you're doing life with anybody for any amount of time, there's going to be conflict. They're going to get on your nerves. So that idea that relationships are just supposed to work, it doesn't happen like that in the real life. Your love life is not a Disney movie. So this broader idea, this broader myth of Mr. Right has been romanticized by media, by fairy tales, by this idea from Greek mythology around soulmates, but it can also be traced back, like I said, to the story of Adam and Eve. We have to challenge this idea that love is about two perfectly matched individuals who just go through life perfectly with no conflict, with no challenges. That's just not how life works out. They're reinforcing this idea that once you find your person, everything is just going to fall into place seamlessly. How many times have you been in relation with someone and things just didn't work? Things weren't perfect. You had a bump in the road and you decided that it wasn't going to work. And this is just not about romantic relationships. I've had friendships that things were going well, we didn't have any conflict, and as soon as there was a conflict, the relationship folded because we had been in a relationship for years. We had never had a conflict, and all of a sudden, here we are at a crossroads, Someone has made someone mad. Someone doesn't know how to communicate. Someone just wants to act like it never happened. And there's a fracture in the relationship and it's never been repaired. So if you have been searching for that perfect person or just waiting for that perfect person, you probably missed out on some really good opportunities to be loved and to give love in a way that God designed you to do. If you're looking for that perfect person who checks off everything on your list and never disappoints you, I can guarantee you that you're overlooking someone who's right there, who could love you an imperfect love, but the perfect love for you. And this channel is about deep conversations. And so I expect that we have mature individuals who are able to challenge what they thought they knew, challenge what they thought they have been taught. And so again, I want to reiterate that the story about Eve, the Bible is a book that is filled with similes and metaphors, similar to the parables that Jesus told because he was trying to teach a lesson in the midst of the story. So the story of Eve, it is not evidence that you were created specifically for one person because again, we talked about, as I mentioned earlier, that there's no other evidence of that ever being the case in any of the other stories included in the Bible. But what it does mean is that we are created for relationship, that humans desire connection with someone outside of themselves. That doesn't limit it to one single individual. So if you're going through life and you're thinking that there is a Mr. Right somewhere out there waiting to riding on his white horse, so what do you think? Is Mr. Right a myth that's messing up your love life? It sets an unrealistic standard. So let's talk about some of the problems with this mindset about the Mr. Right that is ready to swoop in and save the day, riding in on his white horse and making sure that everything is right in your world. It leads us to a place where we're unable to recognize potential partners because they aren't perfect in your eyes. How many times have we dismissed someone for the most menial of things, but they could have probably been a match, something that could be fixed, but they could have been a match, but because they weren't perfect, we dismissed them. I see so many of you online every day complaining about the status of the dating pool. I won't repeat what you say is in the dating pool, but it's so comical to me because I know that this is rooted in this idea of this perfect person for us. But this mindset causes indecision, it causes a fear of commitment, it causes a fear of missing out because you're always thinking that something better is out there for you. And so it's causing you to be very critical of the people that you come across. It's causing you to miss opportunities. It's causing you to become frustrated with the dating scene. I see so many people that are just over it and done. But if we just let go of this myth of the perfect person, then maybe we will have better results on our search for elevated love. I don't want you to miss out on the opportunity to nurture a relationship with an imperfect but good person. So that's it for this video. We've talked about the origins of this idea about Mr. Right. We've talked about some of the examples of it in media. We talked about the creation story of Eve. We've talked about how these ideas have led us to miss opportunities in love. And we talked about how this mindset has permeated throughout the dating scene and caused you to become frustrated. And in the next video, we're going to talk about how this has led to missed opportunities, but I'm going to show you how to recover. So don't fear. But in the comments below, I want you to talk about, sound off. Tell me about a time when so I want you to sound off. This is season 2. We are encouraging community here. And I want you to use that comment section as your journal. Tell me, are you holding out for perfection? And could that be holding you back from the love that you deserve? So what do you think? Is Mr. Right a myth that's messing up your love life? Don't worry, we're just getting started. In the next episode, we're going to be talking about something that hits just a little bit closer to home. How waiting for Mr. Right may lead to missed opportunities. Trust me, you don't want to miss it. If you found today's episode enlightening, hit that subscribe button, like this video, and share with someone who needs to hear it. And remember, if you're ready to stop waiting and start dating with intention, check out my masterclass in the description below.